Welcome to the Calder Farmstead.
Now the Ice Hawks back out to center in transition. Carlson with Quenneville 2-on-1. Right when Hauser comes, Quenneville scores!
Here's a chance for Pairings. He scores! Off the face-off! Up in Zeminger. Pulled back to Werenski. Has it. Shoots one. Bounces off a man. 5 seconds left. Werenski. Another jam on the shot. Turning and firing. They score! Monsters score! Now they catch each other and they both go right over the top. Matching rights to one another. McDermott gets the helmet off with Cassie.
And now with 9 minutes gone in overtime, the Bears breaking out right side with Bear. Looks like cutting to the net. Bear will score!
And here are your hosts, Cece and Sean.
Hello and greetings from the mile-high city of Denver, Colorado.
And Espoo, Finland.
Welcome to the Calder Farmstead podcast, episode number 8 for Thursday, February 4th, 2021. If you were hoping for a podcast featuring help on grain silo construction, we are not going to be much help, unfortunately. This is an American Hockey League podcast, and my name is CC Hockley.
And I'm Sean O'Brien.
And both of us thank you all for tuning in with us for this episode.
So if you're new to hearing CC and I talk about hockey, we're going to preview teams in the upcoming AHL season for you. We both watch a lot of AHL games. We're going to talk about what we see when we watch film, as well as use some advanced stats to help us break it down. If that's new to you, you might want to head over to our podcast feed or YouTube channel, wherever you're listening to us from, and check out episode 0. It's a 20-minute primer on some of the stats we're going to be talking about. So if you're new to some of the more advanced hockey stats terms, like point shares or goals saved above average, you might want to go check that out so you'll be able to better pick up what we're putting down. I promise it isn't that nerdy or technical, and it's only 20 minutes. Let's be honest with each other. You've wasted 20 minutes today already. This is, probably a more useful 20 minutes that you'll spend. With that get out of the way, let's talk about the Cleveland Monsters.
Let's talk about them. We'll cover 2 teams tonight. One of them is going to be Cleveland, like Sean said. The other one's going to be the Rochester Americans. So stay tuned for that. First, we'll tackle the Monsters. Let's get into a little bit of a stats capsule here. Pretty basic stuff. Let's talk about the head coach, Mike Eaves. He begins his 2nd season with the club. 2019-20, their regular season record was not great. In fact, it was downright bad. 24-31, 5-2. That was good enough for 8th in the North Division out of 8 teams. And it's episode number 8, so I guess that's unfortunately fitting. Affiliation for 2021, the Columbus Blue Jackets of the NHL. I had to look this up. The last time Cleveland had a ECHL or AA affiliate was back with the Kalamazoo Wings in 15-16. And before that, in the CHL, a little local nod here, the Denver Cutthroats of the Central Hockey League from 2012 to 2014. So a little factoid there for you hockey fans. Game schedule.
Cutthroats.
Denver Cutthroats. It's literally a big D on the chest of the jersey with a fish going through it.
Wait, it's a fish? It's not like a pirate or
it is a fish, like the cutthroat salmon. It's a fish. I believe it's a salmon. Here I am second guessing myself, but yeah, Denver Cutthroats. It is a cutthroat trout. My bad. Yes.
We need to stop giving fish badass names.
Hey, so if fish can swim, thousands of miles to get from point A to point B, that's pretty badass in my opinion. But I digress. Let's talk the Cleveland Monsters schedule for the 2021 season. They're on the lower end of things. They are only playing 28 games this year, 4 against the Chicago Wolves, 8 against the Grand Rapids Griffins, Rochester Americans, like we mentioned. We'll be covering them later. Cleveland plays them 6 times. They play Rockford 4 times, and they play the Texas Stars 6 times. So a fairly spread out schedule. Mainly Central Division foes, minus Rochester, who is residing in the North Division this year. So, and pretty much every year. So, yeah, there's no tinkering there. But that's your basic capsule stats and information. Let's talk about the forwards core. First and foremost, let's start with 3 guys: Adam Haluka, Zach Dalpe, and Tyler Sakura. I'm going to need to do some heavy lifting for the Monsters this season if they are going to succeed. Haluka has shown in the past that he can drive play and help put goals on the board, but has never had to be the guy before. And while he's got play driving talent, I don't know if he's capable of shouldering that much of the offensive responsibility. Dalpe was the guy for the Monsters in 1819, banging home 33 goals, posting 10.38 point shares, and finishing in the 98th percentile among forwards that season. Is that good, Sean?
That's pretty good.
That's pretty damn good. Now, injury kept him out most of last season. He's a battler for sure, but he has an injury history that's concerning. So it's becoming a pattern, and that is a little eyebrow raising for sure. Is he at full health now, and can he stay there? Those are two big questions for him coming into the 2021 campaign. Now, I'm not a doctor. I just play one on YouTube, so we'll have to wait and see. But let's talk about Tyler Sakura a little bit. He's got a history of being a good depth scorer. He put up 34 points in 63 games last season. That was good for 3.18 point shares and a second line grade, according to the model. Respectable numbers, but he's going to need to step that production up, especially being one of the top three guys that we just mentioned. The same is true for Trey Fixwellansky, who has good puck skills and a pretty good shot, but his production needs to take a step forward. And here's why. The depth behind him is a lot of maybe, could be, and not a lot of definite guys to provide supplemental scoring. Returning to the Monster just earlier this week, Nathan Gerbe comes back just in time to see his C be awarded to Zach Dalpe. Gerbe brings the same hardworking Swiss Army knife mentality he's had his whole career. His puck skills and hockey smarts are a welcomed addition back to Cleveland. He just actually got reassigned on Wednesday, and this is coming out on Thursday. So yeah, just pretty much breaking news for this episode. Brett Gallant's career high is 3 goals. Zach Jordan was merely okay in college and doesn't have standout puck skills or a rifle shot. Ryan McGinnis has good hands, but gives incredibly inconsistent effort night in and night out. And he hasn't shown he can put it all together despite raw talent. Cole Sherwood has a decent shot and is a strong skater, but unfortunately he lacks puck skills and vision. Carson Meyer has a deceptive shot and had a good college career, rebounding after a 25-inch tapeworm tanked his sophomore season. Yeah, you heard that correctly. 25-inch tapeworm. That's a hell of an injury you don't hear about every day. Now, I don't feel confident he produces meaningful offense this season in spite of that. So we'll see how he recovers, but I don't think he's going to, at least on the ice. Tyler Angle has a solid defensive game, but I think he struggles mightily playing against grown-ass men in the first season out of juniors. Again, recurring theme, younger guys against grown-ass men. Overall, could this forward group work out well and produce at a reasonable level? Yeah, it absolutely could, but a lot of good breaks have to happen for that to turn into reality. So, yeah, 3 guys carrying the main load and a lot of unknowns and question marks. It's just the forwards group is going to be, it's going to be, well, it's kind of a wait and see sort of thing. So with the forwards,
getting Gerbe back for them is a big thing too, but Gerbe's also someone who's spent a lot of time in the NHL and is probably going to get a short leash should anything bad happen in Columbus, as it seems like Torts likes him, which is rare for Torts to do to a human being. But he seems to have a trust with Gerbe. And another point too is a lot of the guys that they're bringing back from last year's last place finish are their depth scorers, guys like Sherwood and McGinnis. So the fact that they struggled last year with those guys in the lineup and then bringing them back this year, yes, they could all take steps forward in their development, but at the same time, that is kind of scary that we're looking at a lot of the same depth guys from the year they just had that did not go well.
Yeah, it's kind of like me sitting down and looking at San Jose last year, who finished 7th out of 7 teams in the Pacific Division. I was looking up the stats. 7 out of 8 of their top point getters from last season are returning, which isn't good because they sucked last year. And so it's going to be a lot more sucking this year. That's a little foreshadowing for the, San Jose Tucson episode that we're going to be recording. But man, I was so discouraged. I'm like, I'm done. I can't research these guys anymore tonight. I need to go to bed. So those are the forwards for Cleveland. We'll come back to the Central Division. Those are the forwards for Cleveland. Sean, let's talk blue liners. Talk about the defensemen for the Monsters.
Absolutely. I like the signing of Gavin Bayreuther in the offseason. I think he's got pretty good puck skills. He's decent in zone end. He's someone I can see being a solid number 3 defenseman for the Monsters. Maybe run the second power play unit if, he gains some trust with the coaching staff. Dylan Simpson is pretty good in his own end during in-zone defense, but I saw him a number of times struggle under pressure, resorting to glass and out plays instead of controlled zone exits, which, will stop up transition games. And those rush chances are incredibly important. Anytime you can manufacture them, you need to. So the fact that I watched Dylan Simpson repeatedly just buckle under pressure and be forced to do just glass and outs against F1, that's not good. Thomas Schmitz had a down year last season, but even his breakout season of 18-19 only had him finish with 24 points and a 74th percentile grade from the model. Like, that's not terrible, and I think he's a capable defenseman, but he's more of a bottom pairing guy with upside than anything. I don't expect anything from Brandon Fortunato, as he wasn't that good in the ECHL. Wyatt Newpower could fill in as a more defensively responsible second pairing guy after a good college stint at Connecticut, but that's not set in stone, as a lot of times you'll see the outcomes for guys who had good college careers while very wildy in the AHL. Sometimes their production comes with them. Jake Evans for Laval, his production from Notre Dame came with him, whereas I've seen a lot of cases in which it doesn't come with them. They leave it in college. Mm-hmm. But that's a lot of guys in the roster who are second pairing guys. So are there any top pairing caliber guys in the Monsters training camp? I think yes. Let's talk about Jake Christensen. He's coming off one of the most dominant seasons as an overager in the WHL in my lifetime. He has an RPG for a shot and can just absolutely ball on the offensive side of the puck. Does that mean he can absolutely puck? Because that doesn't sound right. I still think we're going to stick with absolutely ball.
Yeah, it's weird because in every other sport you have a ball, but
yeah, but like saying he can absolutely puck sounds stupid. Anyway, he's decent in his own zone, and I worry about his rush defense a little bit, but what he can do with the puck on his stick makes him special, and you can pair him with a guy who's more defensively responsible, say a Wyatt Newpower. But I'm expecting big things from Jake Christensen this season. I think he's the guy that leads that team defensively, and that's good because it puts Gavin Bayreuther to a second pairing role that I think he would excel in. And allows more of the natural falling of the depth chart and where guys are best suited kind of go in that order. But Christensen is someone who I think a lot of their defensive core success is going to depend on this season. So that's skaters, that's defensemen. The most important part of any team is goaltending, because if you have all the talent in the world skating around out there, but your goalie can't stop a beach ball, none of it really matters. So CC, what can their goalies do for us? Are they voodoo ready?
Let's see if they can do that voodoo so well. Vinay Vevalainen. Wow, I already butchered it. And I've got the pronunciation right in front of me. We talked about this. No, I didn't. Vinay Vevalainen. Nen. I did get it right. So why did I put an A at the end there? Okay. Third time's the charm. Vinay Vevalainen. There we go. Vevalainen. He had a below average debut last season, but I think a portion of that had to do with the poor play in front of him. He's 23, and while he's undersized and lacks the explosiveness and quickness you'd want from a goalie his size, he still has good technical foundation and above average rebound control, which is huge, of course, at this level. That being said, he's going to need to step up this season and seize the starting role here in a big way if the Monsters want to make progress in 2021. Behind him is Cameron Johnson, who's got some AHL experience, but those 32 starts went not great, Bob. Not great, Bob. He took last season in the Coast and where he seemed to find his game. Granted, that was a very good Florida Everblades team in front of him. They always put a competitive product out there in the ECHL. So will he step up and be a solid AHL starter for the Monsters this season? It's possible, as goaltending is voodoo, but I wouldn't be counting on it by any means. All right. Those are the voodoo practitioners, netminders, goaltenders. Now we talk outcomes for the Cleveland Monsters. Hold on to your butts. Here's the best case scenario. Sean.
Best case scenario, guys on the offense like Sherwood and Fixwellansky step up and help fill the gaps in scoring, take some of the pressure off of Haluka. Jake Christensen looks like the absolute truth on the blue line. Bayreuther and Simpson hold down top 4 roles admirably. V blows away last season's numbers like it was the old Bailey. They finish with 39 points, which is a 99-point season under usual circumstances. That's typically good enough to sneak away with a Central Division title, but a lot of things have to go right there, especially V.
You talking about Vevalainen? There we go.
Yeah. I'm going to make you say that. I'm not taking shots at that.
The guy who screwed it up 3 times.
I can't be mispronouncing names.
You got an image to keep up here. You can't be mispronouncing names. All right. Sean covered best case scenario. I'll cover worst case scenario. Basically the opposite of that. Haluka and company do okay, but secondary scoring doesn't materialize. And while the decor isn't awful, I mean, they're pulling a Vegas Golden Knights in their expansion season, just a bunch of second liners just packed on that roster. It can't make up for another below average season from Vevalainen and Cam Johnson. They finish with 29 points, and that translates to a 73-point season in normal times. And that is, not good. Anyway, most likely scenario.
So I'm not as high on them as I think the division is a lot tighter. Chicago seems like the clear-cut best team and Cleveland, Iowa, and Rockford are all sandwiched kind of in the middle. They're going to need to pick up W's in Grand Rapids and Texas to kind of keep pace ahead of those, which I think those games against Rockford are going to be very competitive. The model likes them for 36 points, which is a 91-point pace. I like them. I think they have some good players in the team and definitely aren't the, hot dumpster that they were last season. But I'm going to take the slight under and say 34 points for an 86-point pace.
That's not terrible, but, it's, it's an improvement, but it's not, obviously they're not going to be running away with things like the Chicago Wolves we are predicting with their double NHL affiliation and all those, contracted guys on their squad. So there you have it.
So that is the first half of the battle for Great Lakes supremacy between Cleveland and Rochester. We're going to pay some bills here, and then we will be back to talk about the Rochester Americans.
All right, and we are back. Cleveland Monsters down, Rochester Americans to go. Sean is going to start off with the forward group with the Amerks. And, I'm going to get out of the way and let him speak.
Well, not quite. We need a stats capsule. You got to.
Oh, goodness.
Yep. Tell me about head coach Seth Appert and their last season.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Rochester's coaching staff and, Buffalo's in general just got gutted in this offseason. And so, the Pagulas just completely clean house. And so Seth Appert, he's going to be entering his first season as the Rochester Americans head coach. And 1920, their regular season record last year was 33, 24, and 5. Pretty solid. That's good for second in the North Division. And again, the season was abruptly cut short in March 2020. So that's where they stood, frozen in time forevermore. The affiliation for 2021 is with the Buffalo Sabres. The Cincinnati Cyclones are not playing in 2021 in the ECHL. So the Sabres it is. Games scheduled 32, and unlike Cleveland, like we mentioned before, who has 5 opponents, Rochester only has 3. They've got Cleveland, which is 6 games, Syracuse, 12 games, and Utica, 14 games. Good golly, Miss Molly, you've got 26 games against 2 teams that have a double NHL affiliation. Godspeed, Rochester. Holy crow. Yeah. All right. Sorry, I jumped the gun on the ad cap or the on the capsule there. And now we can talk about forwards. And now I can yield the floor to my good man, Sean O'Brien.
So the forwards group, I actually like a good bit here. Rasmus Appland is a 2-way center, but still lacks some top-end polish and puck skills that I think keeps him from truly breaking through. He's still a solid AHL forward, though, with good skating ability, but he just doesn't strike me as that top-line player. I do like Arttu Ristusalainen. I like his puck skills. What's that?
Ruotsalainen.
Ruotsalainen. Oh God,
I tried to change that pronunciation before you got there. Sorry. Ruotsalainen. There you go.
Ruotsalainen. There, I got it. See, I won't get chased out of Finland. All right. I like Ruotsalainen's puck skills and shot. He skates well, but not enough to be a top-end threat with his speed. But I think he carves out a role in the middle six as a solid defensive contributor. He's with the Sabres taxi squad right now, but I can't imagine he doesn't play at least half of Rochester's games this season. The same can be said for Jean-Sebastien Day. He's on the taxi squad right now, but I'm counting on him coming back to Rochester sooner rather than later. Day has some good playmaking vision for the AHL level, but his skating lacks that higher gear. I like his puck skills, but they won't wow you. His ability to find open ice in the offensive zone is impressive, though, and he can hold his own in the defensive end. Stephen Fogarty joins the list of escapees of Hartford and the Curse of the Whale. Fogarty has really found his offensive game over the last 2 seasons while not skimping out on the defensive aspects that he's known for. His skill set and skating won't wow you, but he's an effective AHL forward. Remy Ellie just made his return to Rochester after signing yesterday. Ellie's skating and work ethic make him an effective forechecker and a good puck mover. He's more of a down-low grinder than a finesse scorer, but he does have puck skills and will find ways to get on the score sheet this season. Andrew Ogilvy, I liked him during his college career, but I was always leery if his production from there would transfer to the pro game. And so far, it hasn't. Ogilvy's still a hard worker, and he has flashes of good puck skills, but his ability to process the game and make good decisions with the puck just hasn't been there to my liking. He has some shooting talent, but he needs someone else to help him drive play on his line. While, yes, CJ Smith is in Buffalo on the taxi squad as of, I believe, yesterday, I don't think he stays there all season, so it's worth talking about him in the Americ's preview. Smith had quite a down year last year, and it all seemed to fall apart after an injury in November 2019. We don't know what the injury was, but part of me wonders if it didn't linger and had some hand in his missing production. I mean, like I said, like CC said earlier, I'm not a doctor, I just play one on YouTube, but I am concerned about, how that injury timing kind of lined up with when his production when he came back, it wasn't the same. He didn't look like the same guy. Regardless, I like Smith's ability to find open space in the rush, paired with a good but not great shot. Matej Bakar is a difficult player to figure out. He's someone who has a lot of potential, and every time I watch him, I see a good player, but it doesn't seem like he's ever taken the steps forward I expected him to. He certainly doesn't shy away from confrontation after the whistles, and definitely seemed like he was doing his best to find that Matthew Tkachuk kind of role in his game. He's only 20, so he has plenty of time left to develop, to find that polish on his puck skills and develop a better skating stride. But I'd like to see him take steps forward this season, as I don't feel like in previous years he's really made those incremental jumps you'd want to see from a developmental aspect. Brett Murray is a big physical nightmare in front of the net and has some offensive capabilities, but I don't see much more from him than a third-line, second power play unit specialist who has value but doesn't drive play. And of course, we have to talk about Brandon Bureau, because I don't need the Alumni Association to be asking for my membership card to be turned in. Bureau's a very good skater who's one of the most consistent players at the college last season for Penn State.
Of course.
He never truly dominated, but he never felt absent from games he played in. He is someone you will notice every time. He's got good playmaking instincts and a 200-foot game to him. I don't know if he makes a huge impact on the score sheet this season, but like I said, he will not go unnoticed. And of course, we saved the most intriguing forward for last. We got to get you listening all the way to the end here. Sadly, Jack Quinn will not be able to make his debut on Friday, but the 8th overall pick on 2020 will get on the ice for the Americans sooner rather than later. Quinn scored 50 goals last season in junior, but I wouldn't call him an elite sniper. Don't get me wrong, the kid can shoot, but his ability to see moves ahead is what makes him special, more so than anything else. Oftentimes when I would watch him, he would make plays that he would anticipate that I didn't even see, and I can pause and rewind and stuff. Mm-hmm. His skating continues to improve, but it's his least good skill is how I would describe it. He's not a physical player, but he works hard. He plays good defense. He is someone who is going to make an immediate impact and is one of those players that when he touches the puck, you know right away he's special just by watching him skate, by watching him play, by watching him move with the puck. He is someone you're going to notice right away. So that's the forwards, but they're only half the skaters in theory. They're a third of the skaters in actual practice. CC, tell me about the defensemen.
All righty. We'll start with Matthias Samuelson, not related to former NHL defenseman Ulf Samuelson. His father is Jell Samuelson, who was also an AHLer, but I digress. He is a big physical defenseman who's downright not fun to play against. His skating is decent for a big guy, and he has moments where he shows skills on the offensive side of the puck, but unfortunately they are few and far between. Ryan Jones won't be bringing much to the offensive side of the puck, but his shutdown D skills are pretty good. The same can be said for Dylan Bluejuice, who plays a responsible game but won't find the score sheet hardly ever. Jones seems to be an ideal partner for Casey Fitzgerald, as Fitzgerald's skating is impressive and he has an okay offensive skill set, but he's not very good in his own end. So nice little balance there. Blue Juice fits better as a partner to Jacob Bryson, who's an elite skater, just like his cousin in Bridgeport, Mitchell Van de Sample, which makes his size at 5'9" pretty moot, especially when paired with a pretty good hockey IQ. I thought he had a pretty good rookie season, but not a great one. Regardless, he's got the tools to be an outstanding defenseman for Rochester this season. Oskari Laaksonen has the size, mobility, and the vision to find passing lanes in the offensive zone. I like his skating, but not overly so. His defensive zone coverage concerns me, and I'm sure he'll make a few bad turnovers this season that'll lead to goals against, but defensive zone work is much easier to teach and be absorbed than, say, better skating or offensive vision. And those pairings, those hypothetical pairings rather, it's always nice to see a good balance when you've got your right and left defensemen. So, for Rochester to really figure that out and to pair the guys well that, kind of like Sean and I, we balance out each other's strengths and weaknesses. It's good to have a defensive pairing like that as well.
Pairings, though, in line chemistry is such a tricky thing, though.
Mm-hmm.
There are a lot of times in which you're like, oh, offensive guy who skates well, pair him with defensive banger who, maybe is a little slower, and that'll totally work well. And sometimes it works great. You're like, oh, I'm a genius. And then other times it doesn't. And you're just trying to force a round peg into a square hole. It's line chemistry is one of those things that just never makes logical sense. It seems like sometimes it works out well. And then other times it's like, you might as well just pull names out of a hat. I've definitely, from my, incredibly amateur playing career, I played on lines with guys I hated, but we worked well together. Sometimes just you click. So it's a lot of this is almost fantasy casting. Like we think these guys should work together, right? But in reality, man, who knows? Anyway, speaking of who knows, let's talk about the most who knows aspect of hockey, and that's goaltending.
Mm-hmm.
Because goaltending is voodoo. Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen is someone who desperately needs a better nickname than UPL. So I'm gonna offer one up here. Apparently, the Finnish M39 rifle is nicknamed Ukko-Pekka after the Finnish head of state during Finland's independence in the 1930s. So despite not being a shooter, I think rifle is a pretty good nickname for him. It fits his name. Either way, rifle is the guy the Sabres have to want to be the clear-cut starter here. And while he looked shaky last season at times in his brief AHL stint, he has the size and instincts to be a solid goalie. But I think the speed of the pro game and the timing against pro shooters got the better of him last season. That should be something that fades with time, though. He's still young and developing, so I expect him to make improvements in that area and be less wowed by shooters as we go on. But he does have a solid backup behind him. Dustin Takarsky will make Rochester the 9th AHL tracksuit in a damn impressive collection at this point. Takarsky's definitely someone I'd want sitting in the locker room next to me if I'm Rifle. 2 Calder Cups, an all-star nod, and a long career that's had more than its share of ups and downs. And he's had mostly ups, though, because he's had 2 seasons out of 12 in the AHL where he finished with a save percentage below league average. 2 out of 12. For a position that is bogged by voodoo and inconsistently, that is damn impressive consistency from him.
Indeed.
Michael Hauser is on the roster as well, but I'd be surprised if he was anything more than an in-case goalie. He's got 73 games of AHL experience scattered across 9 seasons, and hasn't had more than a cup of coffee in the AHL since 2015. Overall, he's probably capable of being a clear-cut AHL backup, but not a 1B. But if he's the worst goalie on your roster, you are doing damn fine this season, because even that caliber of goaltender isn't on every AHL roster. I mean, if you've been listening to our season previews and have heard our goaltending previews, it's been a lot of like, well, I think that guy might be able to do it at the AHL, even though he never has before. But you have a dude with 73 games of AHL experience who's been okay-ish as your third goaltender. Yeah, those are riches this season, good sir. So that's all of the skaters on the roster. Let's talk about how they put it all together. CC, what's best case scenario here?
Well, you mentioned Jack Quinn earlier, and the best case scenario is Jack Quinn doing Jack Quinn things, riding shotgun alongside Asplund. Buffalo sends guys back to the Amerks like I think they will, and only takes guys for short bursts instead of long stints away. Guys like Casey Fitzgerald and Jacob Bryson, they take steps forward, and the goaltending tandem of Takarsky and Rifle looks like the best in the league. They finish with 41 points, which is a 92-point pace in a normal season. So that's best case. Sean's got worst case for Rochester.
So not only do J.S. Day and CJ Smith and Ruotsalainen not come back to the Amerks, Jack Quinn doesn't stay either due to either a call-up or a CHL season gets started. The defense doesn't chip in the scoring, and while they look competent, Takarsky gives them some good starts, but maybe Rifle doesn't. They finish with 32 points. That's a 72-point pace in normal times. And if that seems like a big swing from best case, well, CC, let's explain that in the most likely section we have here.
Yes. Now, I mentioned when I was giving the capsule that they're playing a ton of games against Syracuse and Utica, who have the benefit of double NHL affiliations. So while I think that this looks like a good team on paper, their schedule is absolutely brutal, maybe the toughest in the league. And like I mentioned, Syracuse, Utica, those double affiliations that they both stumbled backwards into now that Milwaukee, Charlotte, and Springfield AHL have opted out of the AHL season rather. Now, don't get me wrong. I like the Amerks roster, but against Sam and Sven in Utica or Barry Boulay and his crew over there in Syracuse, they look top to bottom like better teams. Now, some taxi squad assignments from those teams can really change the wins as double the affiliations. You have double the taxi squad, so you may have more guys that have to leave. But for right now, I think the Amerks can compete with them, but it's going to be an uphill battle for sure. The model projects them for 36 points, which is an 80-point season in normal times. I'll take the slide over on that and say 38, which tracks to an 85-point season, which is not too shabby, especially against opponents like that.
They've done a good job of keeping up with the arms race the best they could, where even at times, though, they didn't have a full roster in training camp, which is why we've been sitting on the Amerks preview for a while. But I think that there is enough there that they can sneak some games out, especially because that goaltending looks the most potent of most of the teams we previewed so far. And goaltending counts for a lot.
Yes, it does. Yeah. And the voodoo is head scratching at times, but it is vastly important in regards to, I mean, any playoff team worth its ilk that makes a push towards the Stanley Cup or the Calder Cup or the Kelly Cup or the President's Cup or whatever level and whatever league, hot goaltending is a must. And it's amazing that, you know, the 7th, 8th best team, I'm looking at you, LA Kings from 2012, and Jonathan Quick, them riding the coattails as the 8th seed all the way to the finals. That's so important. But we'll see. We'll see if we have a Calder Cup finals or even a Calder Cup playoffs this year. That's the rumor going around, but we have no official announcement yet. So
nope. And I don't imagine that we will have an official announcement for a while. The AHL took its good, sweet time deciding if it was going to have a season. It stayed back and stayed patient as long as it could to make sure that it had as much information and pushed the deadline as far as it could before having to cut ties. And people are like, oh, yeah, they just decided that they were going to be able to get a season going. And then immediately afterward, we're like, oh, yeah, let's project 4 months forward and say what's going to happen with the Calder Cup. Like, be serious, guys. Be serious. That's not what happened. Like, there are, like, it doesn't look great right now, but we don't know. how you survived all of 2020. How do you think you know stuff now 5 months in advance? Like, no.
I mean, look what the ECHL is doing. Like, they are releasing their schedule like 2 months at a time, and they're staggering it in what it looks like 3 sections. You know, I was kind of keeping an eye on Indy. Got a photographer that's maybe looking at shooting Indy, and me maybe going out there to cover the Grizzlies should they play. But I was looking at the Indy Fuels schedule, and they're just releasing it in parts, every 2 months. And they haven't, as far as to my knowledge, they haven't released April and May of the ECHL schedule. The AHL's got at least a leg up on that, but you gotta see how COVID works out and people getting the vaccine and things like that. And you just gotta play it kind of by ear and see how it goes. And it's like, they can't even get their Canadian division to get a schedule out right now because of all the provincial stuff going on in Ontario and everything. So,
and because Calgary, can't manage the logistics that everyone else did, like Vancouver and Edmonton.
Well, and in fairness, Sean, they haven't had the best working relationship with the city of Stockton and just that whole scenario as well. So to kind of give them the shaft there at the last hour, the 11th hour was unfortunate. It was a kind of a poor move made in poor taste, but it wasn't surprising for me, unfortunately.
I mean, yeah, this is the leadership group in Calgary that's been trying to trade Johnny Gaudreau for like 2 seasons. So them making some questionable choices is, seems on brand for them. And like we talk a lot about the AHL schedule, which I also think we should make a note of is not set in stone. Like
right.
They have this plan, but like the NHL is canceling games. If you don't think that's going to happen here, no.
Yeah, maybe not in the Atlantic Division where you only have 2 opponents. I mean, but the Northeast could be, could have an uptick in COVID cases. You never know. Or those teams could just get completely wiped out and it's like, all right, no more Atlantic Division. We're moving on.
Yeah. Or, they could have to stop a game in the second period or something. It's, crazy.
Are you referencing current events or something?
I would never do that.
Mm-hmm. Sure. Well, Sean, it was good talking a little AHL there to finish up the episode, but we are finished. So take it away. We're going to go to the outro.
That's it for the show. If you guys are enjoying the show, please make sure you subscribe so you get episodes in a timely fashion. We've been cranking out these previews about daily, and our plan for the season tentatively is to try and do 1 to 2 shows a week. So if you aren't subscribed, you aren't following us on social media, that's going to be hard for you to keep up with. If you are subscribing, please make sure you rate and review the podcast wherever you're listening to it from, or if you're watching it on YouTube, like the video and comment what you thought of the episode. Doing so helps others find the show, and your reviews help us improve it. You can also follow the show on social media. If you're watching us on YouTube, it's our link tree down there is scrolling past. Our social media you can find all on our link tree. But just in case you're listening, our social media is at Calder Farmstead on Twitter, at the Calder Farmstead on Instagram and Facebook. Links to all of that and more can be found in our link tree, which again, if you're listening, is linktr.ee/the Calder Farmstead. Cece, take it away.
Hey, and Sean reminded me to cue the scrolling the scrolling banner at the bottom there. So kudos to him for reminding me so that I wasn't a 50-50 hoser today. All right, my name's CC Hockley, and you can find the Calder Farmstead on the Full Press Radio Network. We are a part of that. Follow us, numerous other hockey programs, and various other sports podcasts at fullpresscoverage.com. You can find me representing Full Press Hockey on Twitter at FPC_AHL and at my personal Twitter as well. I mainly tweet about hockey, but you'll see me chime in about music and, my day job and all sorts of other things as well. My personal Twitter account is at CCHawk. That's SEESEEHAWK. You can also check out my writing on the Full Press Coverage Network at www.fullpresshockey.com. Pretty straightforward. Sean.
I'm Sean O'Brien. You can find me on Twitter at Sean O'Brien 81. That's SeanObrien 81. I'm also on Instagram at Sean O'Brien _81. Both of those are personal accounts. And like CC, most of my tweets are about hockey, but you also get, the random other parts of my life that, I shoot out thoughts about into the void of Twitter or Instagram. You can find my stats work at Tableau, which has all of our point shares models and all of the fancier stats you hear about that go above and beyond goals, assists, points, and that other one we don't talk about. You can find that at bit.ly/data dump and chase, all lowercase, all one word. Big thanks to Adrian Drake, who made our theme music. You can find him on social media at AD_Dysfunction, AD_DYSFUNCTION, so he can make music for you too.
Alrighty, we are down to 4 teams before we begin the season on Friday, February 5th. San Jose and Tucson I mentioned earlier, but then we've also got the Hershey Bears and Wilkes-Barre Scranton Penguins. Looks like we're going to be doing a twofer and recording 2 episodes tomorrow. So stay tuned. We'll get this done before the puck drops on Friday, February 5th. Thank you for listening. Don't forget, keep your stick on the ice.